Hello and welcome to the Coded Dojo. How is everyone going today? As you can see, I'm back in the library from the bookshelf behind me. I've had some internet troubles today, so hopefully none of those catch up with me. Are we all prepared to do some more on our snake game? Or do you call this game Snake? What would you call this game? I always call it Snake, but I know that there's a very popular version of it called Slither, the slither.io. What would you call this game? So this is what we've got so far. So we've got this very short snake. We're going to be able to change this, but so far we can't lose the game. It doesn't matter if we go into our own tail, which is supposed to lose the game when you're playing Snake. It doesn't matter if we go into the edge, where you're supposed to lose the game. There's no way of losing just yet. But we're going to put in some code today to increase the length of the snake, and also add in these little yellow dots that when you collect them, I should say, it will lengthen the snake and increase your score. So we'll have a scoring system and a high score system as well. So I'll just go through some of the code that we've already got. The other thing as well that I should say is I should share this. So if you haven't been here for part 1, this is the code. It says part 2, but don't worry, that's the code for part 1. So you can just click on that and click Remix, and that will take you right up to where we're at. So let's just go through some of the code so far for a few minutes while we wait for some more people to arrive. So we've got 2 different sprites, the snake head and the snake tail. And if we look in the snake head code, we've got some variables that we've got here, snake direction and snake speed. This controls how fast the snake head moves around. It also controls what direction that the snake moves in. And then we have this forever loop that has these 4 red blocks, which are functions. They're my blocks. And then after that, we've got move a certain number of steps, which is controlled by our snake speed variable, and point in direction, which is controlled by our snake direction variable. So this is pretty simple if you've done Scratch games before. You know, you press a button and it changes the direction that your character is going in. The difference is that with this game, we have made it so that you can never go back on yourself. So what do I mean by that? If you're going up, that means you cannot go down. You can't fold yourself back down over your tail. If you're going up, you can only go left or you can go right. And the same if you're going, sideways. You can't. If you're going right, you can't go back left. You can only go up or down. So we have this little check here which says if not snake direction, the opposite direction, then change the variable snake direction into the correct direction that we want to be going in. And the direction, it's controlled by numbers, which if you've done angles, geometry in school, then you'll know about the 360 degrees. Scratch does that a bit differently, so don't stress too much. All of that stuff's already in. We won't be covering that. If you want to know more about that, check out the part 1. Let's have a look and see where we want to be at by the end of today's session. See, here we go. So this game, if I hit the edge, I immediately lose. Right? Doesn't matter which edge we touch. If we touch the edge, we lose. And the other thing is we can go... Oh, something interesting's happening here. How curious. What's going on there? Unless did I do WASD? No, I didn't. There we go. That's better. Okay, so the other thing that you'll notice is the snake tail's a bit longer, and these little yellow cubes, when I pick them up, my snake tail gets even longer. And we even have a score system. Each time we pick up one of the yellow dots, it adds 1 to our score. And there's even a high score system, whereby we can beat the high score, which currently, for this game, this version of the game is 45. So we'll see if we can break that later. All right, well, let's make a start, shall we? That should be enough time for people to arrive. So let's, let me bring this one over here. That's looking good. Okay. All right. So, everyone start off at your snake project if you've got it from last time. If you don't have it, that's fine. Just click on that link in the chat and click on Remix and get to that point. I've given you a bit of a rundown of the code that we've got so far, in the snake head at least. Let's have a quick look at the snake tail. Because we've got a function, and the function is check for collision, this red my block here, which is called define check for collision. Everything that we put into define check for collision will happen anytime we have this little mini check for collision line in our code. So this is going to happen for a number of times that's dictated by how long is our snake right now. So we need to run this check to see if the snake head has run into the snake tail. So normally what I'd like to do is get the snake head to check if it's run into any of the tail. The problem is that the tail is always coming out of the back of the snake head, so it's always touching the snake head a little bit. So we could have made like an extra bit of snake section, maybe something else called the snake neck or something. But I figured what we would do is we'd get the snake tail to check to see if it's touching the snake head. And we're gonna, which is maybe not the best way of doing it, because that's a lot of different cloned sprites that are going to be doing collision checks all at once. But it'll be interesting because I'm going to show you how we can use a weight to ensure that the snake tail doesn't find collision when it's being spawned out the back of the snake head. Okay, so let's see. What we're going to do then is, so in the snake tail, look for this define check for collision. We're going to put some extra code in there. So everyone click on events, the yellow category on the left there. I always do that, not events. Control. So a little bit lower, go to control, the orangey category, and look for if then. Drag out that if then. It's a bit bigger so we can see it more easily. Have a look at if then. Drag it out, put it underneath define check for collision, and we need to ask the question, have we touched the snake head yet? So to do that, we go to the light blue category, sensing. Click on that for us now. Then look at the very first line. We've got touching mouse pointer. So we can change this so that we're not checking for touching mouse pointer, that we're checking to see if we're touching the snake head. So drag out touching mouse pointer, put it inside the if then, click on that white triangle, and then select snake head. So then what we're going to do is we are going to, if we do find that we're touching the snake head, we're going to go stop all. So to do that, we go to Control, scroll down a little bit, look for Stop All, drag that out, put it inside the if touching snakehead then, and then after we've done that check, we want to wait for a very small period of time before we do the check again, because if we do checks without waiting, the checks will run like many times every second, which will slow down the computer a lot. So we need to put in a wait, otherwise we're going to slow down our program too much. Because to check for collision requires the computer to think about it. And if we do that over and over and over and over and over and over again, like, 100 times a second, the computer's going to freak out, or at least get very slow. So look at Control. At the very top of the Control category, you should see wait 1 second. Drag that out and put it underneath if touching snakehead then. Put it right underneath on the very bottom. Now 1 second is too long. We don't want it to wait 1 second in between each time it's checking for collision. So click on that one and type in 0.1. So it's going to wait 0.1 seconds instead of 1 second. Okay, I'll save this. So let's back out and have a look at the rest of the code. Let's have a look at the when I start as clone section of the snaketail code. So we've got this when I start as clone, the snaketail shows itself, which is good. We want it to show. And then it runs this collision check a bunch of times. So what we need to do is, well, let's play it and see what happens. What will happen is the game will not start, because what happens is the snaketail spawns, it's touching the snakehead immediately, and so immediately it says, well, you've run into the tail, you lose. Right? So what we're going to do is we're going to put in a wait before the repeat snake length check for collision, okay? So look for that wait 1 second, drag out that wait, and put it above repeat snake length. Now click on that 1, because again, 1 second is maybe a bit too long. Let's change it to 0.5. Once we've done that, let's test it. And there we go. Now you can see immediately our snake tail is a lot longer. And that's because each of the individual squares that make up our snake tail are taking a lot longer to delete themselves. Because when does each square delete itself? Well, it deletes itself after it's done check for collision a certain number of times. How many times does it do check for collision? Well, it does that number of times equal to a variable that's called snake length. What does snake length start off as? Well, if you look up, you'll see that snake length starts at 10. So currently, it's 10 times. It will do check for collision. It will ask, am I touching the snake head? And then it will wait, and then it will ask it again and do that. And then at the end of 10 times, it will delete itself. And that's what gives us this sort of illusion of this long snake, which is actually being made up of all these trailing squares that are coming after it and deleting themselves after a certain period of time. So I'll save this. So if anyone's just arrived, just click on that link and click on Remix, and you should be up to the same place that everyone else is at. We've got our snake tail. Is it like the correct length now? It's a bit longer than it was. It was very short before. And we've got it so that if we run into our own tail like this, we die. Now, one other thing you might notice is that the snake that I've got is quite chunky. you could make this whole thing a bit smaller. How would you do that? That's only an optional thing, so if you're not sure how you would do that, then don't worry. But for my more experienced ninjas, have a bit of a think. How would you change the snake length? How would you make the snake a little less chunky, a little skinnier? Ah, the stream's freezing. Is that right, Ms. Yeti? How often is that happening? That's unfortunate. I mentioned, unfortunately, I was having some internet troubles earlier. I'll just quickly check on OBS. See if I can... Yeah, I'm dropping frames. Dropping a lot of frames. All right. Well, we'll have to see. I'm doing one more stream on Thursday, and then I've got a week off, and hopefully we can fix some of those internet problems before next time. I don't know if I can do that partway through the stream, to be honest. I'll have a look, though. Let's see. I'll bring up OBS, and it doesn't normally let you change the settings partway through. Video bitrate. All right, sure. Let's try putting it down to 2000. Okay. All right. So it's probably going to be a bit of a delay. Yeah, a lot of OBS settings can't be changed partway through a stream, but yeah, you're right, Ms. Yeti, that one can, so that's good. Thanks for that. I've changed it from, it was on 2,500, it was on 2,500, and I put it down to 2,000. So let me know how that goes. How are you keeping anyway, Ms. Yeti? Keeping well? Had a nice weekend? All right. Hopefully that fixes it. If it's still dropping out in a little while, then let me know. How's the audio, by the way, as well? Is it distorting? I might just turn my audio down a little bit. 1,000 bit rate, you say? Okay. Why not? Let's drop it down a bit more. Okay. So hopefully we won't be dropping any more frames. Probably take maybe 15, 20 seconds for that to take effect, but hopefully that's all okay. If it's still misbehaving in a couple of minutes, let me know in chat, and I'll drop it down a bit more. I'll put it down to 1,500 at the moment. Okay, all right. Let's get back to it then. Hope you guys enjoyed that little break. We're going to do some more coding. The next thing that we're going to do is we need to do some checking for collision to see if we've run into the walls, if we run into the edge of the screen. Bring that up. Okay. So this is pretty simple. We just need to get out basically the same thing that we did for the snake tail just a second ago. This is a simple way of coding a collision check. Just go to Control, because a collision check is basically, have I touched this thing? If so, what do I do? Whenever we're asking a question in code, we always need an if-then, or something similar to an if-then. So go to Control, drag out if-then. Just put it underneath, just put it off by itself right now. And we need to know if we've touched the edge. So drag out, so go to Sensing, the light blue category. Look at the top line there, which says touching mouse pointer. Drag that out and put it in between the if and the then. I'm going to make this a bit bigger so you guys can see it. And then we're going to get another stop all. So go to Control, look near the bottom, and you'll find Stop All, and put it inside. So, and then also the thing we need to do is we need to change this mouse pointer. So click that white triangle next to mouse pointer and select Edge. So now we have this nice bit of code that says, if touching edge, then stop all, which is good enough as like a game over thing for us for now. You could put some more stuff instead of this stop all for like making a game over screen come up, that kind of thing. But for now, this is fine. So this here, we need to put this inside the forever loop. All of this should be in the snake head. So have a look at your forever loop, and I'm actually going to drop this and put it right above point up. Make sure that none of it gets sucked inside the if, because we don't want this stuff to happen only if we're touching the edge. So now we've got this nice check that happens before anything else happens that says, have you touched the edge? If you have, you die. Or rather, the game is over. You lose. Stop all. Nice and simple. So now let's test that. Let's see if it works. If I go to this edge, yep, game is over. If I go to this edge, game stops. If I go to this edge, game stops. If I go down to the bottom edge, game stops. Good. All right, cool. So, that's all good. We've got that collision working. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add in the food, the little yellow squares that you pick up, and that give you more length to your tail. So what we're going to do is we're going to make the square the same size as the snake tail. So to do that, I'm just going to duplicate the snake tail. So you should now have, so to do that, and this will be probably going a little bit behind the video of me. So you just go to snake tail in the bottom right corner, right click on it, and then you'll get three options: duplicate, export, or delete. We want to duplicate it. And then next to it, you should have this snake tail 2. That's right behind the video of me right now on the screen. So rename this as food. So just click on where it says sprite, and just above where we've got all of our sprites, and rename that food. And then all the code that's inside the food sprite we don't need. So just get rid of all that code. Make sure you're getting rid of it from your food sprite, not your snake tail sprite, because you need that code for your snake tail sprite. All right. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go across to costumes. I'm going to select this square. I'm going to change it to yellow. So you just go on costumes on the left, top left corner. You click on that square, and then near the top left, you should be able to change the fill color so that you've now got some a nice yellow square. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to make this food randomly appear in different places on the screen, and then wait until the snake head touches it. Yes, Oil Can Production says, I like yellow. Absolutely. It's a good color, is yellow. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Events. We're going to look for the top one, when green flag clicked, drag that out. We're going to set up some code that duplicates, clones these foods, and leaves them around the screen so that we can collect them. So because this food, this original food, is going to be like the original that makes clones of itself, I want to hide this one. So go to looks, look near the bottom for hide, drag out hide, that's in the purple category, looks on the left side, drag out hide. Then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a forever loop. So we go to control, the orangey category, look for forever, third one from the top, drag that out. Now we've got our forever loop. Now in our forever loop, we're just going to go to a random position. So click on motion, the dark blue category in the top left corner. Look, fourth from the top is go to random position. And then we're going to make a clone. So go to control, look near the bottom, and you should find create clone of myself. Put that next, and then we're going to put in a wait 1 second. That should be at the top of control, drag out that wait 1 second. So now we've got this original food sprite that will just go to random places around this screen, create clones of itself, wait, and keep doing it. That's pretty much all we need for that so far. So now what we're going to do is we need to create some instructions for what our food clones do when they are created. And what they basically do is wait around to be eaten. So have a look near the bottom of control, should still be in control, and look for when I start as clone near the bottom. When I start as clone, no problems, oil cans. I'll catch you up when you get back. Save now. So we drag out our when I start as clone, and then we are going to, well, the first thing that we need to do is we need to show. So go to looks, top left corner, look near the bottom for show, because the original food that's going around making clones of itself is hidden. We need to make sure that the clones, when they're made, show themselves so that we can see them and eat them. Then what we're going to do is we are going to say wait until. So go to control and look sort of near the bottom for wait until. What are we waiting for? We're waiting to be eaten, so wait until touching snake head. So remember where that is? We go to sensing, the light blue category. We go about touching, that first one there. And we click on the white triangle and click on snake head. So wait until touching snake head. And then what do we do? Well, let's make the snake length variable go up by 1. Because remember, that controls how long the snake tail squares hang around for, which gives us this illusion of the snake becoming longer and longer and longer. So we go to variables. We drag out change my variable by 1. And we change, and we click on that white triangle, and we swap it from my variable to snake length. All right, so, and then after that, we need to make sure that the food deletes itself because it's been eaten. And also, if we don't delete the clone, then our snake length will just go up by like, I don't know, 100 or something, and then the game will be impossible to beat. So everyone go to control and drag out, look at the very bottom of control, drag out delete this clone and put that right underneath change snake length by 1. All right, so let's hit go. I might have to make some of these variables invisible. I'll make snake length visible though. Okay, so now I've got this snake. There we go. I'm on my laptop today, so I've got to be careful. If I touch my mouse pad, my keyboard stops working. I could disable that, but... Now, are we noticing some problems? Keep an eye out. There's a few problems. One, can you see what's happened on the left there? There's a food that spawned underneath the snake tail. Now, that doesn't feel very good. And also, there are these food that are really close to the edge, which again feels bad because it's difficult to get them because they're so close to the edge. And we lose. There we go. But you will notice that the snake length is working because our snake tail was becoming longer and longer and longer the more food that we collected. So what I'm going to do is I put in a bit of code. I'm going to show you how to do the same thing, which just checks to see if the food is touching the snake tail when it spawns, and if it is, then it deletes itself, just because it feels wrong for me for the food to spawn right underneath the snake tail. And while we're at it, we should probably make sure that the food doesn't spawn right on top of the snake head. And we should also probably make sure that we make sure that the food doesn't spawn, doesn't get created right on the edge of the screen to make it too hard. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to My Blocks, bottom left corner. Well, not bottom left corner, but last category. And we're going to click on Make a Block. So click on My Blocks, the red category on the left there, and click on Make a Block. Aside from that, how's everyone's game going? The food's working okay? Everyone's given it a test? Once you've finished testing, make sure you go to My Blocks and click on Make a Block. Now, we're going to call this block Check for Bad Spawn. I don't know if you use the word spawn. So spawn is like a video game term, and it's a game design term where when you make something, when you've created, like you've made an enemy appear, for example, or treasure that's meant to appear. Often that's referred to as spawning. So check for bad spawn, and so drag out that define check for bad spawn so it's got a bit of space underneath it. We are going to make sure that these food check to see if they're in a bad place, and if they are, they're just going to delete themselves straight up before they run any of the other stuff. So the first thing that they need to do before they show themselves is check for bad spawn. So look right underneath when I start as clone, drag out the little line check for bad spawn, our function there, and put it right underneath when I start as a clone. And now we're going to put in some code into define check for bad spawn. Okay, should be pretty simple. We're going to do 3 collision checks. There are other ways of doing this as well, and if you have other suggestions for doing this, feel free to write this in. I'm going to explain it this way so that I think it's a bit easier to understand. But if you have a better way of doing this, by all means, write it in chat. Ms. Yeti says, I use the spawn word because Minecraft, lol. Yes, absolutely. Honestly, I'm trying to think where I picked up spawn. It was probably from StarCraft 1. I'm showing my age now. Oh my goodness me. You must construct more pylons. Okay, guys, so let's put in some code underneath define check for bad spawn. So remember, collision checks. How do we do collision checks? First, you need an if. Drag out the if then. Drag out that if then. What do we put inside the if then? We need to go to sensing. We need to pull out a touching mouse pointer and then change the mouse pointer to, let's do edge. And then we want to delete the clone. if it's touching the edge. So go to Control, drag out, delete this clone. It's near the very bottom of the control codes. Put it inside the if touching edge, then delete this clone. Now we're going to do 2 more of these, and instead of having to do them the hard way, let's do this the easy way. So right-click on the if of the if touching edge. Right-click on that. If you're looking at my screen, hopefully you can see. And you should get an option to duplicate. Duplicate, and now put your duplicated one directly underneath. Make sure it's not stuck inside. Make sure it's directly underneath. And then do that again. Duplicate it again and put it directly underneath. So now you should have these 3 collision checks. And all you need to do is click on the white triangle and change one of the collision checks to snake head and change one of the collision checks to snake tail. So now, before the clone does anything else, it's going to ask 3 questions. Question 1, am I touching the edge? Is the answer yes? If so, delete yourself. And then do the same thing for a different question. Am I touching the snake head or am I touching a snake tail? If so, delete yourself. Do not do anything else. So let's test it and let's see if we get any of the food touching the snake tail. Looks good so far. I'm not getting any of... It looked like I did get one. Ah, there is one spawning there. Well, maybe that's okay. Interesting. Well... wasn't working this way on my previous code. I've done if touching edge, delete this clone. If touching snake head, delete this clone. If touching snake tail, delete this clone. Weird. Must be a thing to do with collision. Well, that was weird. Well, the code is in. There might be a reason for this, but for now we'll just leave it. It was working on my previous version that I made. It could be to do with how chunky this snake is. Oh, no. I know exactly why it's not working. I put it... Okay, has anyone else figured it out? If you know why, I've just figured it out. If you know why, put your answers in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to share this with you. So, you know how hiding and showing work. If something is hidden, it can't collide because there's nothing to collide with. It's hidden. So, the show... so if you look at when I start as clone, what do we have? When I start as clone, then check for bad spawn, then show. So that's what's wrong. The show should be happening before the check for bad spawn. Hey, Ms. Yeti, you got it. Well done, well done. All right, so move the show before the check for bad spawn. And that's much better. Look at that. Nothing is spawning. The food is not spawning inside the tail or the head or on the edge. Much better. Yeah, there we go. Right, brilliant. Okay, so got our food working. We've got. So the only thing that we need to do now is we're going to add in a score. So we've got our snake length, but that's not, and that keeps track of how many food we have eaten. But that looks weird to start on score 10 and go up by 1 and 1 and 1. So let's make a new variable. We'll do this in the food sprite. So everyone go to variables. Then once you've clicked on variables on the left-hand side, the dark orange category, click on make a variable. Type in score. You can call this score, or you can call it points, or you can call it food. And then while we're at it, we're also going to make a high score. So click on make a variable again and type in high score. Oh, can't spell there for a second. All right, good. And if you want to go really retro, you can spell high, just H-I. That's what the old arcade cabinets used to do that, because they would always try and cut down the number of letters they were using. All right, so on the variables while we're here, untick snake length, so that we should now just have these two nice variables, score and high score. Groovy. All right, so first things that we need to do is we need to make sure that when we start the game, the score goes back to 0. So have a look for the when green flag clicked code in food, and right underneath it, drag out a set variable to 0 and put it right underneath when green flag clicked. Now and make sure that you click that white triangle and make sure that you've selected set score to 0. We don't want the high score to set back to 0 because the high score stays high if someone breaks the high score. Absolutely, you're right, Ms. Yeti. Yes, the arcade machines use a lot less letters because low storage, also low resolution on the screen as well. They only had very few pixels to work with, so they had to take shortcuts. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to My Blocks. We're going to make ourselves another function, and this is going to be our score function. So click on My Blocks, the red category. You should see we've got our check for bad spawn. Just above that, click on Make a Block, and just call this one Calculate Score. In general, I've been told you should try and name functions as like a verb, as in to do something, as just good practice. But if you just want to call it score, that's fine. Technically, score is also a verb. Anyway, we'll not go down too far down that rabbit hole into English. Okay, so we've got define, calculate, score off to the right side there. What we're going to do is we are going to drag out. In the top left, you can see we've got calculate score. Drag that out and put it right. You can either go above or below change snake length by 1. Doesn't matter. Okay, so we've got define, calculate, score. Let's put some stuff inside there. So first things first, we need to make our score go up by 1. Now this code, by the way, that I'm about to show you, it will be useful in any game. You need to make sure you've got those two variables set up, but you can set up a score and a high score in absolutely any game. So we need to make the score go up by 1. This calculate score is going to be run once a food is eaten. So we want the score to go up by 1. So go to variables, drag out a change variable by 1, and put that underneath define calculate score. Now we want to make sure that we want to click that white triangle because we want to change score by 1. I'll just make it bigger so you guys can see it more clearly. So change score by 1, and then we need to ask a question. Has the score gotten bigger than the high score? So whenever we ask a question, we need an if-then statement. Go to events, the yellow category on the left. Not events, no, I do that every time. Control. We're going to have some sort of counter. How many times does Jonathan take us to events when he was supposed to take us to control? All right, so go to control, drag out an if, then put it underneath change score by 1. And now we need to do a bit of maths. Don't panic. Everyone go to operators, the green category on the left. Look for, let's see, 6 from the top. You should have space, and then an arrow, and then 50. So we need a more than. We need a more than operator. Now, everyone who knows, put the symbol for more than in chat. Everyone who knows the symbol for more than, put it in chat. Everyone who doesn't know, I'm about to tell you. So you should see these 3 6-sided shaped lines of code, these operators here, and they've got a space and then a symbol and then 50. The first one is more than. Not this time, Ms. Yeti. That's less than. More than is the arrow that's pointing right. So we've got, more than is the arrow that's pointing towards the 50. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to variables. Once we've got our operator inside our if-then, we're going to grab out first score and put it in that first space, that one that's blank before the arrow. And then we're going to drag out high score, the little round high score variable, and put it in the second slot over the 50. So the question that we're asking is the score more than the high score? And if so, we need to update the high score to become whatever the score is. So that's nice and simple. We pull out, put inside the if a set high score to 0, drag that out, put inside our if score more than high score, then set high score to 0, but we don't want to set it to 0, do we? We want to set it to whatever the score is. So again, drag out that little round score variable and put it over the 0. Now let's give it a little bit of a test. So now we should have a score, and each time I get a food, it goes up by 1. That's good. I'm up to 4, 5, 6, 7, and you can see the high score is going up as well because I've broken the high score. But now if I immediately kill myself, there we go, and start again, you can see my score has gone back to 0, up to 1, and then it's going up again, but it's not affecting the high score. The high score is still 9. So now what you can do is you can challenge the other people in your house and see if they can beat your high score. So how is that for everyone? Is that all working? Oh no, got myself stuck in the corner. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to show you for today. If anyone's running into any problems or anyone's got any glitches, I can help you fix those. Otherwise, on Thursday, I'm going to show you guys how we can add a menu to this, and or we might be adding in a second player. Because Snake is fun, but 2-player Snake is even more fun. So it'll be interesting. We might, adapting this to be a 2-player game is going to be interesting. There we go. So depending on how we go, we will either be doing a menu, or we'll be adding in a second player, or we'll be doing both. All right, my high score is 33. What's everyone else's so far? Who's gotten the highest? Uh-oh, uh-oh, I can't get that food. All right, gotta... Uh-oh, I'm stuck in a corner. Dead. All right, no problems. I can link the completed code for you, Richard. No problems. All right, so let's see project page. There you go. I'll pop it in again. That is fine. So, that's all right. I can pop the link in again. Well, that's everything. Looks like everyone got along and made the project okay. We didn't run into any problems. All good. So yeah, hopefully we fix some of the internet issues for Thursday. I might be back at home, but I'm having some internet issues at home as well, so we'll see how all that goes. On Thursday, we'll work more on the Snake game. Next week, we're going to be taking a week off. I will be putting up a video onto the YouTube channel during that week, but that's likely going to be for like brand new people who've never used Scratch before, so that there's a video I can point at to do things like explain how to make sprites and how to drag the codes out and that kind of thing. So I know that school holidays is coming up, so you guys enjoy your school holidays next week, but I'll see you on Thursday. And yeah, so until I see you guys on Thursday, you guys all take care, be cool, and we'll see you next time, ninjas.